Well, it's pretty much been the story of this World Cup. India aate hain, match jeet ke jate hain, and just the sheer, ability with which they've been able to win comprehensively. It's been fantastic to watch. Of course, as a Team India fan, yeah, I couldn't have asked for more. We've got Nikhil Bhai, we've of course got Gurkirat as well to talk a bit more about the second innings. Gurkirat, how would you rate Axel out in the beginning? Because I personally felt that he did do well. I'm just going straight. Like I'm happy with how quickly I'm going straight to the question. एक मिनट भी नहीं हुआ है, सीधा question. Sorry Gurkirat, let's go my way this time.
फेस्टिवल का दिन है तो रैली शुडंट से मच, बट इंडिया फैन कब से? मतलब ये क्या बहती गंगा में हाथ धो दो, अभी इंडिया फैन हो गए तुम? मिड इनिंग्स में तुम बहुत बोल रहे थे. और बाय द वे जस्ट सेइंग, आई got the 250 part spot on. So yeah, but
मैं भी ज्यादा दूर नहीं था, मैं 413 ही बोला था, बस वहीं पे थे,
बस थोड़ा सा.
हाँ थोड़ा सा, हर ओवर में एक दो बाउंड्री मार देते तो हो जाता.
हाँ. So yeah, Boult started well. So did Ackerman. Ackerman hit some delightful drives, especially to pacers. But see, once he fell to Kuldeep, I felt that they could just collapse to Kuldeep. So credit to them for not letting that happen, and them, trying to just play out Kuldeep and then look to score off others. But yeah, once India got Edwards out through their X factor, wrong-footed in swinging menace, you felt that it was just India knew that they couldn't really lose this game, so they were just trying out whatever options they wanted to try out in terms of sixth bowler, and yeah, not much was left in the game from there on.
100%. We'll definitely talk a bit more about India's sort of tries with every batter, every option they pretty much had. Nikhil bhai, had you ever imagined the opposition skipper being taken by Virat Kohli, the highest scorer from the opposition being dismissed by Rohit Sharma? मतलब क्या चल रहा है भाई? दिवाली है तो ऐसे ही मुफ्त में सबको मिठाई बांट रहे हैं क्या?
So
I mean,
that is
Kohli
the-
has taken. That's the spirit, and Kohli has taken down keepers and captains. If you look at that list, all of his all of his five ODI victims are actually keepers. So again, we have to be careful if you are. And he can catch you off the wrong foot. Matlab, that is as clear as it can get, and watch out for the leg stump, the leg side flick. It is this great scenes actually. Well, I'm not sure anybody saw it coming. Even Virat didn't see it coming. You could see that from that reaction. And that too of Scott Edwards. I was actually wondering, Jadeja ko Scott is playing off the back foot, happy to use the pace. Turns out the wrong footed in swinging menace gets a tickle down the leg side. So you can't write these things. And I think once Surya also came on to bowl, I was sure Rohit will bowl. I didn't know when, but like a true Mumbai Indian came out to close the innings out and close it out well.
Fair enough. And again, Nikhil bhai, Gurkirat mentioned Ackerman and how well he started. Unfortunately, Berisi couldn't get going. He got out in the second over itself. Overall, Netherlands batting performance, happy with how they did today, given that the target was well out of their reach. That was something they probably, I mean, I know it's sort of, wrong to dismiss them, so to say, but they would have known. Like, if not being able to reach the target, their next best objective would be to try and play out the innings. So how would you sort of, given that objective, how would you rate the performance today?
I mean, they got the quickest 50 for any side against India in this World Cup. That tells you something, that they were able to put some kind of pressure, and which is good also for Netherlands. We discussed how their batting is what has let them down right through the World Cup. Their bowling has held its own, fielding has been superb, but their batting has been relying on a couple of individuals in every game. So someday it's Sybrand who's doing well, someday it's Scott Edwards, someday it's Teja like today. But they haven't had a collective good batting day for multiple games now. So I think that is something that they look back on, that they had the bowling to defend in terms of keep it tight. Today you saw Colin again just being himself. As you know, Paji also said some really good drives. They forced India to try things on, which is good. You wanted to see that. With when Kuldeep came on, maybe you felt that did Colin Ackerman go too early, but then those things can happen. Those are very tricky calls. And again, we have to remember they hardly face left arm wrist spin. So T20 mein, I don't think they've ever faced left arm wrist spin. So it is not easy for them to pick, as we discussed off air. They were going to do it off the deck only, and they all tried. And I think fair to say they had their own.
Am I stuck or is it Nikhil Bhai who's stuck?
Yeah, Nikhil's. I think Nikhil's net became stuck
Yeah.
there.
Gurkirat, in terms of Netherlands batting, there's one name that I in particular want to talk about. Sybrand Engelbrecht. He made his debut during the World Cup, was entering, the World Cup with absolutely no sort of one-day experience, one-day international experience. How would you rate his performance? The reason I take his name is because he was one of only two batters for Netherlands who scored more than 200 runs in this World Cup, but he had a strike rate of close to 68. Even today, 45 of 80 at a surface like the one, at the Chinnaswamy. All in all, like, do you think he's a value or value add in the Netherlands in the Dutch middle order, given how they sort of structure at the top?
I think it's been down to his entry points and sometimes situations, because you look at the Sri Lanka game, at 91 for 6 you really cannot complain about a batter's strike rate. So he played a good innings there. Then versus Afghanistan, all of us felt that maybe Edward should have walked out at 4 and not Engelbrecht, and he got stuck. Him getting stuck also resulted in the run out of Ackerman. So there was that. And then again today, you felt maybe he could have come in later. See, he's definitely a better batter versus pace than spin, and the inexperience has somewhere shown in terms of just getting stuck versus spin, and he'll work on it with time. But though that strike rate could have been better if Netherlands would have got those entry points right. So many times they just exposed him to spin straight away, and it was not going to be easy for him.
Nikhil Bhai, what do you make of Cybrand's performance in this World Cup? Because 8 innings, not once was he dismissed in single digits. He was able to get those starts, but his last 5 innings saw him not score above 70 even once. Every time he ended his innings with a strike rate below 70. Do you think that's something he would want to improve on?
Yeah, he would love to, but as Paji said, the conditions haven't been always easy, and they haven't played a lot on very good batting decks. So to say, ki bhai, let's go and kick on and make a big score. And most of the times, it's been batting in very difficult situations where your first aim isn't to bat at a great rate, but you want to bat deep. So I think it's a combination of that, and again the position that they have been. So hopefully going forward, they'll be able to pair better, get entry points right, and hopefully he can contribute a lot more because, as you rightly said, hadn't played a lot of cricket coming into this one in terms of top flight cricket. So hopefully they got a lot more games to just get better at that.
All right, now let's quickly move on to the first segment, which of course is top performer. Well, who else but, of course, India's number four, sorry, to be the top performer for the day. A fantastic unbeaten 128 today. Gurkirat, again, I know we did speak about this during the mid-innings review in terms of how crucial this knock was, not just for him, but for India as well. Going into the semis, they would want their middle order to be in good form. Shreyas Iyer was entering this game on the back of two consecutive half centuries. He was able to score a third one and was also able to convert it into a ton. Something that we had been talking about in the last two games. He was trying to, but he couldn't. All in all, happy with Shreyas Iyer, like going into the semis.
Yeah, cannot really complain about anything. Even if he had not scored runs today, uh, his innings versus South Africa shouldn't really, leave any doubts as such that he can grind if the situation demands it. To be honest, those doubts only also came because of some of his own dismissals, where you felt situations were tailor made for him and he could have really steadied the ship and batted in his usual manner and take India to a good total. I mean, his dismissal in Lucknow could have easily been avoided. That pitch, those conditions were tailor made for him. You could say the same about that dismissal versus New Zealand. So good to see he's got those runs and can carry that confidence. I just hope in the semis, or and if India go to the finals, he's just selective when it comes to pulling the shorter lengths. That's about it. Otherwise, more or less, you don't really see a huge weakness in his game. If he gets a good delivery and he gets out, it's something that can happen to any batter. That's about it.
All right, Nikhil bhai, let me sort of, put you on the stand here. Should Pant be available? Do you see Iyer going out even in this form, or are you happy with the 11 right now?
जो है सब सही है, इसमें स्पॉट में डालने का कुछ है नहीं. द प्रायोरिटी नेवर चेंज्ड फॉर इंडिया आल्सो in that aspect, and it shouldn't as well. So it stays where it is, and then you see where you want to go after this.
Fair enough. All right. And again, once again, if we look at some of the numbers that the Indian team, like we spoke about the innings progression in the mid innings review in terms of how they did. Now, if we look, sort of compare this with how the Netherlands innings went about. Nikhil bhai, towards the end, we did speak about how, Rohit Sharma was trying to find a six bowling option amongst their existing top seven. Couldn't really find anyone. But do you think Teja made the most of it? Like, how much of it is a reflection of the kind of bowling he was facing, and how much of it was down to his own batting abilities? Which, again, no doubt, some of that six hitting was really, really, really clean.
Yeah, and he's someone who has a reputation of playing spin well, and he did that no harm with the way he played both Jadeja and Kuldeep. And again, I felt it was the right areas, that he hit. So all of those sixes which you see, the boundaries, they were in areas where you would say, "Ki, haan, bhai, risk it's relatively lesser. He's going straighter in the V, and played the percentage as well." So uh, maybe batted too low, who knows? But then that's is something that they'll get together probably after this and figure a way out that okay, which is the right entry spot and the right one for each of them. Because again, Teja was the guy who did a lot of damage in the qualifiers as well, all by himself. So there is potential there. Uh, Again, it's about exposure. The more they play, the more they'll learn more about themselves, and the more they'll get used to playing against better sides. Something that their coach said before this game that they've been good, but they haven't been good for a longer duration of time. And in ODI cricket, you need that you need that to happen to be able to translate that pressure into performance or even to induce mistakes from the other side. So hopefully they'll take a lot of positives and be better in the coming times.
Fair enough. Fair enough. For those who weren't able to catch much of the game, sort of summarize it for you, India with a fantastic, fantastic performance from their batting order. Everyone getting 50s. Rahul and I are also getting to their tons. Managed to score 410 for the loss of 4 wickets. Two to Bas the leader, one to Van der Merwe and one to Van Meegeren. And not much look there in terms of Dutch bowling. But with the bat, they were again competitive. Managed to bat nearly 48 overs, scored 250, something Gurkira did predict. Thanks to a brilliant 50 from Teja Nidamanuru. Sybrand also chipping in with a nice 45. Colin up top gave him a brisk start with that 35. Siraj, the pick of the bowlers, again with a 2 for 1 up top, 1 in the end. Walker 2, if I'm not wrong, who was it last? No, it was Van Beek or was it?
Engelbrecht,
Oh, it was to Engelbrecht. My bad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Engelbrecht.
Yeah, it was very good to watch. And what was also interesting was Aaron Finn's insights on how the ball in isolation was probably not good enough, but how the way he set Engelbrecht up to, bowl Widish and then Achanak se on. It was very good. Let's take a few comments now. We move on to
Yeah.
the second segment, of course. Atul Singh, thank you so much. A happy Diwali to you as well. He says, I love your work. Just hang in there. You'll reap the rewards of your hard work. Thank you so much. It's thanks to viewers like you that, you guys light up our days. Thank you so much for, such lovely comments. Ruben says the team will be criticized for not respecting the opponent and taking it as a practice match for part-time bowlers. The fielding department needs to be tightened during the semi-final or it's goodbye. Again, this is something I wanted to ask you guys as well because I saw Bumrah in the outfield, Kuldeep in the outfield. Kya lagta hai? Do you think they were just trying to preserve themselves, save their bodies, or were they just being too sort of complacent? Gurkharat, you can probably take this up.
See, as far as trying those bowling options are concerned, I think they would have done it even if it was some other team, given at what situation those bowlers came in at. As far as the fielding is concerned, yes, you could probably say that it was maybe a case of players being switched off or not really wanting to injure themselves and save their bodies. But I think to say they treated it like a club match is a little too harsh because the intensity was there with the bat. And yeah, see, you have to realize that the intensity can go down if there's nothing much to play for, right? Uh, India had secured this win with the bat itself. Uh, you knew that. So and the some kind of random experiment and everything started to happen when the game was pretty much done. So yeah, I think it's fair, and sometimes you cannot avoid these things because you're also like might as well just give it play to the gallery. People are asking for Kohli to bowl, etc., etc. I just think there's too much being made out of that.
Interesting. Let's quickly take Pranav's comment as well because I couldn't sort of get my eyes off of it. Very interesting observation that Virat looks desperate to find that first boundary from somewhere, and that's a small window for teams to exploit. England did that, and Netherlands did that almost today. They made a mistake by removing Van der Merwe from the other end. Nikhil bhai, is there any merit to that observation?
I mean, it is the exact thing that we said in the mid innings preview, right? About him looking for that first release shot, and sometimes he's been out of the crease or played shots that you don't really associate with a Virat who's still getting in. So I think that's, as he points out, is the place where teams will look to target, keep the runs down, force him to look for that aerial shot. We tried that against Australia as well in the very first game, but post that he's been able to get himself in, get the gaps, and that is something again. See, when you are a champion player, there are only you'll have to be very very nitpicky in terms of के कहाँ से तो कुछ तो तुमको दिखे where you will be able to keep them down. So I think that is it's been something that has been playing around with Virat in the semis. Depends on when India bat, whether first or second. Then you'll have to see how they go about, you know, bowling a lot of dots, or Virat is looking to just get a lot of singles in. So that is something to look out for. That whether he goes for the riskier boundary shot or he's happy to rotate just because it's a knockout or something like that.
All right, Gurkirat, in terms of Kohli's first release shot, how else do you think they can probably counter this? How else can he counter this? Sorry, not they, because this is something Virat Kohli tends to do quite often. We've also, I mean, Nikhil Bhai in particular has mentioned this before. What can he do? Like apart from the rotation of strike that Nikhil Bhai mentioned, like how do you get that release? Like do you just wait for the bowler to make a mistake?
See, there have been innings of Virat where he hasn't really, gotten boundaries straight away, but he still managed a strike rate of 85-90 just through rotation of strike. My mind goes back to the 100 in the Asia Cup versus Pakistan. He did not look at his fluent best, but he was still 50 or 55. So if the boundary is not coming, just back yourself to keep the scoreboard moving like you've done so far in your career, and then wait for the opportunity to come, because the opportunity will present itself. Especially if you're batting in the power play, there will be an odd opportunity or two, and if you feel it's still not come, and after those 15-20 balls you've got your eye in, then pick the right bowler, and you'd expect him to know who's the right bowler to go after.
Interesting. And guys, before we move on to the second segment, please, please, please shower some love just like Atul Singh did. Make sure you're hitting the like button if you haven't already. Also, please do subscribe to us if you haven't already. Yeah, it's time to move on to the second segment right now, which of course is Turning Point. I'm trying to think what joke will Nikhil bhai crack now, because I'm pretty sure Turning Point के नाम पे आज कुछ खास है नहीं बात करने के लिए. That's why I want to start with him. क्या? Let's start. Sorry, Gurkar, you had something to say?
Toss.
Oh, of course. अभी कुछ है ही नहीं. अभी the thing is वो joke अभी कितना पुराना हो गया है, इतना
No,
पुराना हो
but
गया
today it's the truth that Netherlands' chance was probably bat first, get 250 odd, and then maybe see if India can buckle in under that pressure. But with India batting first, 90 for no loss in first 10, the game was only going to go one way.
Interesting, Nikhil bhai. What about you? Toss के अलावा that is.
Turning point was the scheduling that this is the last game.
In fact, I saw a couple of conspiracy theories going around ki how everything has been rigged, to favor India and all of that ki India net run rate boost करने के लिए. What do you? It's a very fascinating story. I'll definitely give them that.
Say yes to everything till India win. All these theories will come true, or you'll have entirely different scripts ready if India don't win. So for now, go with the flow as everybody is doing.
Interesting. Also, let's talk a bit about India's pacers today in the first 10 overs.
Yeah.
Siraj, of course, got that early breakthrough. Barring that, he did go for a bit. I wouldn't say plenty. Shami also in his first spell, was this the first instance of him not taking a wicket in his first spell? If I'm not wrong, it was. Again, Netherlands ke against, Bangladesh ke against, like two teams where you would expect Indian pacers to get more wickets up top to make early inroads. Wasn't to be the case. Kya laga aaj, like in terms of how they bowled today, the power play? Nikhil bhai, you can probably start with this.
Yeah, I think it was good to get this kind of deck as well, where I mean in Bangalore you haven't seen the ball do a lot more. So there is where you are looking to slay ball length and just stay in the channel, and they tried that, but sometimes when you're looking for that swing, you'll go in the slot, and this is where you see a lot of balls there, and there are enough in the length and very little shot, which is something to understand. कि भाई power play hai, and you can also look at the channel. It isn't scattered as much. It again, you will say that it is possibly scattered, but that's where you'll generally want to be. कि अगर थोड़ा भी कुछ movement है, थोड़ा भी कुछ है, तो that's where you'd want to be. And the deck was such that they'll take a score of, okay, you went for 50, maybe too many, but then that was the deck, and it was good batting. So you'll give it to that. And again, whether this is something that can be repeated, well, India will hope that Wankhede may, at least while bowling first, there will be different kind of help if it's afternoon. And if they're bowling second, we've seen enough swing on offer. So the conditions will be different there. Or Ahmedabad bhi hai, so you've still seen some movement there in the second half as well. And first innings, you'll get some grip. So this is probably, I wouldn't say the toughest, but one of those good challenges that India had. And India will feel that yes, there were a couple that went too full or a couple that were wide, but I'll give them that leeway. के I mean, रोज नहीं होगा कोई भी टीम 40 पे 3 50 पे 4, which is good. You want them to get tested also.
Fair enough.
Just the good thing though that I'll just add to this is you saw them try a lot of things, especially towards the end, because I was waiting to see India go around the wicket and bowl wide, because it is a ploy that I feel many teams don't use very often, especially on shorter grounds, because the margin of error is less. So you don't want to just try it immediately in the knockout. But you saw that being tried by India, and you saw Bumrah also going for a lot of Yorkers. I think today India possibly bowled the most amount of Yorkers that we've seen so far. I don't remember India bowling so many Yorkers. So again, just a good sign of a management who's also aware that immediately you'll not be able to pull it off in the knockout if you need to be. So it is good to get them out today, because you saw Siraj do that and you saw Shami do that as well. So that's a good
And
sign.
Siraj landed that Yorker quite well
Yeah,
while coming out
exactly.
the.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything more. He landed the
Ah.
Yorker quite well. But that's all. That's all. I agree with you guys.
There is a good comment from Sanjay that you can take.
ये आईपीएल बातें मत करो यार, असली फैन बनो, इंडियन क्रिकेट के बारे में बात करो यार। वर्ल्ड कप चल रहा है, तुम लोग नहीं, गलत बात है भाई, गलत बात है। कोई मतलब बताओ भाई, क्यों आईपीएल सब नहीं। But before I forget, Gurkirat, one more interesting observation there was in terms of how they weren't trying to attack the stumps a lot. Like a lot of those balls were bowled in the channel or wider. Is this a general pattern with how they start with the new ball, or is it something, or was today an outlier when it comes to that?
Probably felt that there's some movement to exploit to see, if they could get batters out driving. That could have been because on a lot of venues they've relied on seam movement. So I feel when you're relying on seam movement, the idea is to try and attack the stumps and the pads. But when there is swing on offer, we have seen, bowlers in general try and induce the drive or see what can happen. So it might have been just that.
Interesting. Again, just out of the blue, something I'm curious about. क्योंकि निखिल भाई ने आईपीएल की बात छेड़ी, नहीं तो हम तो आईपीएल तो बात करते नहीं है। हम तो मतलब सच्चे इंडियन क्रिकेट टीम के फैन हैं। Netherlands players, if you had to pick players, which player, which team, who do you think is the most likeliest of getting a bid on December 19th? Gurkirat, you can start this.
Uh, this is a tough one. You would
दुखती नस
expect.
पे हाथ रखा है, ठीक है.
See, I think Van Meekeren is one who could. There is Van der Merwe who could. But what might not help Van der Merwe is his age, but Van Meekeren, because what you lack with Indian pacers is the ability to bowl short and extract bounce. Van Meekeren has done that decently. Uh, if Edwards had had a great tournament where he would have really showed his skill set versus spin, he also could have been a contender to get a bid. He still
Series.
could. He still could, but I'm not really sure if teams will go for it. But Van Meekeren, Van der Merwe, maybe Bas de Leede, these guys should be amongst, at least in the conversations of teams showing some interest.
Interesting. Nikhil bhai, what about you?
No, yeah, I agree with the name. Paul Van Meekeren looks
Also
definitely a good.
teams भी बताओ यार, मतलब कौन से
हाँ,
टीम में जा
मैं तो
सकते हैं?
हाँ,
हाँ.
टीम पता कि मतलब है नहीं वैसे. It'll be tricky, but I think Paul Van Meekeren gives me a very good Punjab Kings vibes. जहाँ पे you could get him to bowl in Mohali, bigger ground as well. Sometimes you can get uneven bounce there, so could be very handy with movement there. Basili, as you said, I think Logan Van Beek could also be a very good pick if teams want an all-rounder who can just hit spin, hit pace and bowl slower balls. He bowled really well today. So again, I think he's someone who they can try. Basili, I still feel he's in works in terms of the options that he has with the ball. So maybe there I prefer probably Logan Van Beek more. Balketo, you have Klassen and others who played around the world, in different franchises. So वो bias तो हमेशा रहेगा ही. So yeah, I think these are the few names that come to my mind right up top.
Yeah, personally, even I would probably prefer Van Beek over Leader, because given how he has more, like he's sort of proven more right now at this stage.
Yeah,
Unfortunately for Leader, not exactly the World Cup that people
yeah,
expected off of him. Started off brilliantly, but couldn't really carry it on. And I feel someone like a Fanbi could be an interesting choice in KKR if the surface isn't like what it was during the World Cup. I think the surface is may, and apparently rumors going around the mill is
yeah,
that still is being let go of. Fanbeek would have been a budget replacement for that. I'm not saying like for like, by no means would I say that. But given how the venue is true bounce, he can also extract that with the ball, and he can hit pace, like Nikhil Bhai said, with the bat. You never know, he could have been a decent enough budget pick. They'd gone for Chamika Karuna Ratne last year. I want to believe this guy's
yeah,
a better option than that
yeah,
in all fairness.
for sure.
And Pranav Anand, meanwhile, says, what was it? Yeah, Aryan Dutt, off spinning low order hitter,
Yes.
be useful for LSG and their pitches. Bhai, वो तो CSK है भाई.
My problem is why I did not take his name is off spinners. You've seen Indian franchises think this we'll get in the local market. So because spots are limited, so you want to go for skill sets which you will not get amongst the Indian players. That was the prime reason why I did not take Aryan Dutt's name.
But I think Arindhat could be a very good upgrade if you're looking for someone like Deepak Hooda to do the job. No disrespect to Deepak there, but good high arm action, bounce, and can hit sixes or slower balls. Ask Lungi and Giri.
Gautam,
Maybe
upgrade over
maybe
Gautam?
even maybe even K Gautam. I
That's
mean,
what,
an
upgrade over
upgrade
him, or
over
is he
K.
the same,
K
same mold as
Gautam K Gautam को नहीं मैं compare करेगा. I think K Gautam maybe I bias wise नहीं. I just maybe I've seen too much of K Gautam in KPL, and it's benefited me too much to see K. It doesn't work, but yeah, again, it's about raising to that next level. So which is where hopefully we can see K Gautam also come good.
भाई साहब अभी 32-23 साल के हो गए, अब तक नहीं हुआ, तो आई मीन इन ऑल लाइकलीहुड
And
शायद
it's
नहीं होगा,
okay. It's
बट
okay. कोई बात नहीं.
always, yeah,
Yeah.
that's always true. Paris Arora meanwhile says India haven't been in do or die pressure situations. Australia and Pakistan games were those matches that will be tested in semis. Gurkira, to what extent is that true? Because I've heard this a lot of times. It is good to be tested, which is why a lot of us, not just some of us, were of the opinion that India dropping a game during the league stage would keep them in good stead because they'll know vagera vagera and all of that. Do you agree with this?
See, only if putting tags would have helped people realize that a team has been tested. It it might be true, but see, India have been tested enough in the 9 games. They may not have been do or die pressure games, but they've been tested enough. They got tested versus Australia. They got tested versus Pakistan. They got tested versus New Zealand. In fact, if you think about it, they've been tested with their combination from the fourth game itself when Pandya walked out with injury. और ठीक है आपको do or die and pressure game नहीं था, but you cannot say that the team hasn't been tested. Just putting tags वही है ना, मतलब कहने को like sometimes you'll put tags that oh this guy is a minnow basher, but it doesn't help that way. You still need to perform or score runs against those minnows to not lose. And sometimes it can so happen that you are playing a knockout game but the opposition has just not turned up, but you can say oh performed well in a knockout. So these tags straight away don't help. You need to look at context. India haven't had a do or die game, yes, but that's because they've been so good that they've not faltered whenever they've been tested. So, ठीक है, they've been tested enough. They could be tested against again in the semis, but if they go on to lose, it's not because they weren't tested as such. It's so actually what has happened is post the England win, a lot of I feel a lot of Indian fans have just been trying to look for an obvious weakness and try and tell themselves, "Acha, ye weakness hai. This could hit us, etc., etc." So you should prepare for it. Maybe just start looking for reasons already. Ki, what could hurt the team. So it's just clutching at straws at max, nothing else.
Something I actually have very good experience in. बात नहीं करूंगा लेकिन. But Nikhil bhai, another question that a lot of us, not us, a lot of our viewers were asking from from today's preview, mid innings review, even now, Trent Boult and his ability to sort of go run through the Indian top order. He's not been in the greatest of form, especially with the new ball. He's averaged in excess of 50 in this World Cup. ये खौफ क्यों है? Like, what's the reason? Is it just the horrors of 2019 semi-finals that's still sort of haunting Indian fans, or do you think there is reason to believe Wankhede under lights could be a threat?
हाँ मतलब see this is something that will always be there in the talks, and जब तक वो नहीं करेंगे तब तक वो चीज there is no way to close that conversation. You can speak 10 hours, 12 hours, 2 days, 3 days, जब तक वो फेज नहीं निकाल के लेते तब तक वो नहीं जाएगा, and it probably just tells you how much that 2019 semi-final has haunted people. And it's not unfair also for people to feel that way, because you didn't think that it'll end like that, and when it does and you feel कि भाई यार it's been the same story everywhere, and sometimes also the same thing that you keep hearing कि यार Bolt under lights, Bolt under lights. A lot of us were scared in the Dharamshala chase as well, but you saw how Rohit played, and again there also you have to remember that Henry did bowl well. It was Rohit who took the risk and it came off. So my only bit that I'll say to everybody is just take it as it comes. You and me are not going to be in any control of how the weather will be, how people will play, whether the umpire's call will go in your favor or it will not go in your favor. The thing is, cherish the journey, because it is the journey that you remember. The result will still be there, but you know how you felt when you were going through that journey. So जो भी होता है, this team has given you a lot of good moments right through the World Cup, from the first game to this 9th game. So trust them. Baki, destiny is something that you and me can't control. So all we can hope for is they will give their best, which you will trust them to do. Baki जो होगा देखा जाएगा. Either you'll have the same story or you'll have a new story to tell.
All right, well put there. Let's again, that's pretty much the only thing that I'll be taking in terms of that game's questions. Let's quickly wrap this up with, of course, the points table. We are done with the group stage today. All the group stage fixtures that is today. India, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand are the 4 teams to qualify. Pakistan 5th, Afghanistan 6th, England 7th. No one would have expected this to be the order of the next 6 teams. Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Netherlands, of course, making up 8th, 9th, and 10th. Unfortunately for Netherlands, today's defeat means that they won't be qualifying for the 2025 Champions Trophy. Something that did seem a realistic dream just over a week ago. Yeah, the games against England and India are not helping them. Nikhil bhai, we know in terms of how Netherlands have performed, they have absolutely no reason to not walk out of this tournament with their heads held high. But if a couple of sort of performances that come to your mind right now, if you had to mention off the top of your head.
Well, you'll definitely first thing that comes to my mind is Scott Edwards, the batting effort that he had, where he single-handedly again he was dropped, but that's okay. I mean, you can't put it for against him कि भाई क्यों score किया drop होने के बाद. So he was dropped twice, which is great because we've seen a lot of drop catches on. I'm not speaking of the Afghanistan game. मेरे को बोलना ही नहीं चाहिए इसके बारे में. ठीक, now I'm again into that flashback. But you've seen Usama Mir drop a very expensive catch, and that hasn't worked out. So the first thought was Scott Edwards, that inning, and the second one is a slightly off memory, which I didn't want to remember, but that's those runouts that they had, which just left a sour taste. Ki, yaar, you had started well. That was possibly the best start that you've had in some time, and then you lose that plot from that because if they have that win today, they are in. So again, the things are just different there, but they'll probably hope that those controllables are something that they'll take care of. Uske alawa, there were a lot of good small moments, but yeah, these two just stand out for me. And of course, there is South Africa game जो मेरे को जिसके बारे में मेरे को बात नहीं करना है तो yeah.
नहीं, इसके बारे में बात करने के लिए मौका भी मिलेगा.
Exactly.
Guys, just a couple of plugins before I forget. First of all, please make sure you're hitting the like button if you haven't already. 30 of you watching, make sure we hit 30 likes by the end of the stream.
Please.
And also do subscribe to us if you haven't already. So tomorrow, of course, me, Nikhil Bhai, Avnish will of course be going live with Monday Night Live. We will be talking about all things cricket and a lot more. Of course, the RCB fans and me and Avnish will talk a lot more IPL there. So all of you, IPL enthusiasts can definitely join us there. That'll be a lot more fun, a lot more chilled out versions of us will be there where we'll be talking about all things fun. Even Henry Nichols and his latest ball tampering incident that one of you mentioned early on, we'll talk about that as well. We won't forget. And on Tuesday, we will be reviewing each of the 6 teams that board out of the tournament at the end of the group stage fixtures. So do tune in for that as well. That'll be on Tuesday at 8 o'clock sharp. Me, Nikhil Bhai, and Gurkirat will be going live. We will be reviewing all the 6 teams. We'll be talking about the performers, the performances, the duds, all of that and much more. That'll be on Tuesday. So do make sure you mark your calendars. Monday, 8 o'clock, it's Monday Night Live. Tuesday, 8 o'clock, we will be reviewing all the 6 teams. And yeah, that's it from us right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure once again that you've hit the like button if you haven't already. It's been great bringing this game to you, covering this game for you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great night. A happy Diwali to all of you. Bye-bye.
Happy Diwali. Bye-bye.